Okay, well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our first live streaming meeting of 2020. Hopefully this goes fairly smoothly, and hopefully all you that are watching at home enjoy it as much as our one person in the audience is. Hello, Alex. Okay, I'll start off. Thank you for coming. It's our regular council meeting for Tuesday, June 16th. It's currently 7 o'clock. I would like to call the meeting to order. Approval of the agenda. The recommendation would read
that the agenda be approved as circulated.
Someone to move that? Moved, seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Public input. Public is permitted to provide comments to council on any item shown on this meeting agenda. 2-minute time limit applies to speakers. Seeing as how we only have one person in the audience. Alex, do you have any public input that you'd like to say? No? Okay. Then we'll move on. Delegations, we have no delegations, so we have the minutes. Number 5, minutes of the regular council meeting held on May 5th, 2020. The recommendation would read
that the minutes of the regular council meeting held on May 5th, 2020 be adopted as circulated.
Can I get someone to move that? Moved, seconded. Any discussion? See none? All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Is there any business arising from those minutes? See none? We'll move on to 7. We have a fairly healthy consent agenda. Would any member of council wish to remove any item for further discussion of the consent agenda? Councillor Weberink.
Yes, I would like to remove A, B, D, and F.
Anything else? Okay, well, I'm going to move those remaining items that are in the consent agenda. Do I have someone to move those? Moved, seconded. Any discussion? See none. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Okay, we will now, at Councillor Weberink's wishes, we will now move to 7A, Village of Anmore 2019 Water Quality Report. Let's get the recommendation on first of all. The recommendation is
that council receive the Village of Anmore 2019 Annual Water Quality Report for information.
Okay, someone to move that? Moved, seconded. Now turn it over to Councillor Weberink.
Yeah, I just had a couple of questions. I went through the report. I noticed there's a few private fire hydrants. I think it was 3, if I remember right. I'd go to the report. And I'm just wondering, where are those private hydrants, and are we responsible for those?
Through the chair, the private fire hydrants would be in some of the strata developments. So I know for one that there's the one in Canterwood, and we're not responsible for maintaining them. They undertake their own maintenance on those fire hydrants. Okay, so I'm guessing maybe the other one could be in Countryside? I believe possibly in Countryside, and I believe there's one up at Sunset Ridge as well.
Okay, so they do test them themselves?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And I guess another question with regards to the thresholds, the testing thresholds on page 32. And Julie, you may not be able to answer this question. It might be a question for Public Works, but maybe I'll just ask the questions. I just want to know, like, obviously these numbers look good, and obviously the report is approved and passed. How close is it to the acceptable levels? Like, what are the thresholds for everything? Maybe you could get that for me.
Through the chair, yeah, I'd be happy to get that information back through council. I don't have the information at hand myself right now.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to know what the targets are, and if we're doing good or really good or very good. I know the water system was an issue, and it's pretty important. I know those are the only questions I have on that.
Good. Okay. With any further discussion on the recommendation? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. We'll now move on to 7B, Cannabis Online Sales and Direct Delivery. The recommendation would read
the council received the communication dated April 30th, 2020 from Stick and Stone Cannabis Company regarding request for support for online sales and direct delivery for information.
Can I get someone to move seconded? Receive. I'll now move it over to Councillor Weberink again.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment about this. I was reading some articles on this, the reason for online sales. And I mean, I'm not into the cannabis thing. I'm fine that it was legalized. But I understand there's still a lot of, I was reading in this article, actually I think it was yesterday, that a lot of cannabis is still, black market. And one of the things that will get it off the black market is online sales, and there does seem to be a process in place to check IDs and stuff like that. So I'm for it for that reason. That was the only, I mean, it doesn't really affect us in Anmore, but I just thought it was worth making a statement to that effect.
Well, actually, I think it would have an effect on us, because then we would be getting delivery within our municipality.
Well, that's true.
And I think that it's something that we need to be concerned about, as each municipality is tailoring it to distribution in certain areas of their community that they feel are appropriate for such. I do have a concern of it being online at this point. I think the accessibility would be too much, and I think that a lot of municipalities have put a lot of regulation in where the stores are going and where the distribution is going to be, making sure that those stores are appropriately set up. So, and I think that it also it avails an opportunity for those stores to be regulated very closely in regards to the quality and quantity in that. So, I don't mind receiving this letter as I think the recommendation is that but I think a lot more has to be done in regards to that. So, any other comments? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. We'll now move on to 11D, the City of Coquitlam Review and Expansion of Provincial Property Tax Deferment Program. Recommendation would read
that council receive the communication dated May 7th, 2020 from City of Coquitlam regarding review and expansion of the Provincial Property Tax Deferment Program for information.
Someone to move that. Moved, seconded, and I'll put it over to Councillor Weber.
Yeah. Just wondering how many people in Anmore utilize the property tax deferment program, and what is the criteria? I don't actually understand it completely.
I think it's 55 and
Through the chair, there's a couple of eligibility criteria that have to be met. One of them is age.
Right.
And I need to go and confirm that age. I believe it's either 55 or 65.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's 55.
Yeah, and also if you're low income with a family, you also are eligible for the deferment program. I don't have the exact figures in terms of how many property owners have deferred in Anmore. For last year, we're obviously in the midst of the program for this year.
Right.
But I believe there was about $700,000 in collected taxes that were deferred.
And it all goes through the province. It's nothing. It's not a Village of Anmore program.
That's right. So what happens is the province actually makes payment to the village for the amount of taxes outstanding by the property owner.
Okay. That's the way I understood it.
Yeah.
I just thought it was sort of relevant because.
And it's a nominal interest rate that they're currently charging on that.
It's actually a pretty good interest rate.
Yeah.
So I know my parents used to always take advantage of it. But I think it's prudent right now with COVID-19. I mean, it is an avenue for people who are struggling to defer their taxes if they can prove needs. So, I'm supportive of Richard Stewart's letter. I'm not saying we pass another resolution. I'm okay with receiving it, but I just wanted to get a little bit more information on it.
Good. Any other comments on that? See none, and I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. We'll now move on to 7F, which is the Anmore Bearware. The recommendation would read
The council received the communication dated June 1st, 2020 from Anmore Bear Aware regarding black bears in Anmore region for information.
Good. Someone to move that. Moved, seconded, and I'll pass it back over to you, Councillor Weber.
Thank you. This comes up every year. We've had no shortage of bear incidents in Anmore. But, I'm still getting very concerned about people leaving their garbage out on Thursday night. We're seeing it more and more. Is it time for the village to sort of step up enforcement to, send the bylaw officer around on a Thursday night, pay him some overtime, start with some warnings, some stickers on the garbage cans, and maybe follow up with some fines?
I believe that is being done as we speak.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So we have had our bylaw officer out. He's not out every week, certainly.
Okay.
And at this point, we issue stickers on the bins, and we do record and take photographs so that if there are repeat offenders, we can issue fines. We have not taken that step to date, but certainly if council would like to see additional rather than periodic when we sort of receive a number of complaints from residents, we tend to send our bylaw enforcement officer out, but we don't necessarily do it on a regular basis. So we could look at implementing that and possibly even utilizing the summer part-time bylaw officer that we share with Belcara, which may be more cost-effective if she's willing and able to do those shifts on a Thursday evening.
Good.
Okay, that would be good. I mean, I want to address this letter, and I would like to get back to Tricia McDowell and say that, the village is taking action, and, if there are repeat offenders, that they are being fined. Because there's really no excuse for it. We all know what to do. It's in the news all the time. I don't know why people don't get it. And it is a danger. I mean, we don't really want to attract bears walking around our neighborhoods. We've got kids, we've got all sorts of things. So we have to take, and we have to think about the bears. We have to take this seriously. So could I just suggest that maybe we get back to this individual about the Anmore Bear Aware, and just with maybe even an email that you could CC to council, Julie, that just states what we're doing.
Yeah, we can certainly provide that. Perhaps an motion would be great to amend the motion that is on to just receive the letter, is to provide a response on behalf of the village. And if there is some further direction that council would like to provide in terms of having regular enforcement on Thursday evenings, then that would be appropriate to include in that motion.
Okay.
Do you want to put?
Well, just do a friendly amendment, or do you want a whole new motion?
Councillor Trowbridge.
Yeah, I'm just curious. We have a fine structure, but what is that structure?
So the fine structure escalates based on the number of offenses. So the first is a warning, the second is a $50 fine, the third is a $100 fine, and the fourth is a $200 fine.
So we're pretty lenient relative to other communities then.
I think in very recent years, neighboring communities such as Coquitlam and Port Moody did quite substantially increase the fines for people who had been found to have left their green waste out earlier than, or just in a place that bears could get to it.
So I don't want to complicate this motion, but I think it's something we should speak about further in terms of not just regular surveillance, perhaps, but also the fine structure. I feel, along with Councillor Waverink, that as many years as we talk about this, and every single year, people should know. And I don't think a warning structure is a good idea. I think it should be a fine for your first offense and escalating after that.
Ms. Halliwell.
So perhaps I can suggest then, if council wants to take a more fulsome review of the program itself, that I could provide a report back at the next meeting with potentially a bylaw amendment for our solid waste bylaw where the fine structure exists, as well as some potential costs for utilizing the part-time bylaw officer to be out every Thursday evening.
For enforcement?
Yeah.
Good, okay, so, and that's just, it needs to be direction, does it not? Yeah, okay. Good, okay, well, we had a motion on the table, moved and seconded. Can I get it withdrawn then, the motion? Because we've offered just direction in regards to.
If I may.
Let's just check.
Through the chair, I think right now the motion that's on the floor is just to receive
okay.
the communication, and the further amendment had not been moved or seconded.
Okay. Councillor Wevering, before you.
I was going to say the same thing.
Okay,
We're just receiving the letter, so.
Okay, so I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Carried unanimously with the direction that we're going to have a report will be forthcoming.
And I would just say it would be appropriate, maybe for you, Councillor Wevering, to just respond and let the resident know that it'll be coming forward at the next council meeting for her interest.
Yep, I can do that.
Okay, we'll move now on to legislative reports. 9A, update to the municipal ticket information utilization bylaw report dated June 12, 2020 from our Manager of Development Services attached. Ms. Halliwell.
Thank you, yes. So this report has come forward, and actually one of the items within this report is in reference to the fines we were just speaking about within the solid waste the solid waste bylaw. So recently, Anmore Council adopted a new municipal ticket information utilization bylaw, which basically is one bylaw that pulls all of the fines from all of our other bylaws into one place, so that from a legal perspective, we're able to issue those tickets and collect on them. So through that first review, there were a number of fines that weren't included, and so this is just a bit of a housekeeping report to include some additional fines within our MTI bylaw. And those are listed 1 through 7, starting on page 55 of your agenda package, and they include fines related to the Drinking Water Conservation Plan bylaw, the Erosion and Sediment Control bylaw, our Property Maintenance bylaw, the Smoking Control bylaw, the Solid Waste Management bylaw, the Firearms Control bylaw, and the Fireworks bylaw. So these will now be included in that MTI, and it shows, starting on page 59, the amendment to the actual bylaw, which includes the number as well as who's designated to enforce it, and then on further pages, the fine structure itself. So I'll just refer you to page 65, which outlines those violations that I just referred to, being a warning $50, $100, and actually, my apologies, it's $150, not $200 from there. So that would be coming back as an amendment. So in terms of this report, if council is happy to include those fines in the structure, the recommendation would be that council give first, second, and third reading to the Village of Anmore Municipal Ticket Information Utilization Bylaw, Amendment Bylaw number 627-2020.
Someone to move that? Moved, seconded. Open up for discussion. Councilor Rivering?
Yeah, I just had one comment on page 64, the Anmore Smoking Control Bylaw. I'm just wondering if there's a mistake there, because it doesn't say anything about first offense, second offense, third offense. It's the same statement 3 times. And then the fine escalation doesn't seem right. It's going from 75 to 150 all the way to 2,000. Is that intentional, or?
Thank you for pointing that out. I will need to confirm. I believe that the intent would be that it would be first offense, second offense, third offense for those fines, but we'll go back and confirm that before it comes forward for adoption.
Okay. And then the only other question I had, with regards to fireworks, do we have a fireworks permit? Like, I always see people blowing off fireworks at Halloween. Is there a permit for that?
There are permits, I believe, available. I'd have to get further details on what would be allowed. I know that for our particular fireworks, for the Halloween event that we do every year, the specific wording in the bylaw was updated to not require the village to have a permit.
Okay.
So, yeah, I can get back to you.
Yeah,
with
if you could give me
confirmation
some clarity on that. I just don't know if we're, like, I know lots of people blow off fireworks at Halloween. I don't know if they have a permit, if we even have a permit to give them. But if there's fines, I would imagine there's got to be some sort of process. So just curious as to know what it is. That's it.
The only thing I was going to add is that I know in 2 of the smaller, our neighboring municipalities in Belcarra and also Lions Bay, they have dramatically increased their parking ticket fines to hopefully control some of the issues that are having through this summer. And I'm just wondering, do we want to maybe revisit that a little bit while we're doing this MTI? Are the 2 affiliated?
They are, in the sense that the fines that are included within the parking regulation bylaw also have to be included in the MTI bylaw.
Right.
But in terms of reviewing the fine structure within the parking, it's not specifically related.
Okay. It may be worthwhile when it comes back to 4th reading that we at least have what those fines that they're issuing in those other 2 municipalities, just so we have it as a reference point and see where we're at.
I can certainly circulate that information to council.
Perfect. Good. Thank you. I don't see any more comments, so I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. We have no unfinished business. New business. 11A, Sassmet Volunteer Fund, Fire Department Funding Model Working Group conclusion. Report dated June 12, 2020 from our Chief Administrative Officer is attached. I first off want to thank Councillors Trowbridge, Councillors Weverink, and Ms. Halliwell for partaking in this working group. This was brought forth when Metro Vancouver identified some concerns they had with both of our fire halls, and we I worked at setting up a working group to get to a funding model, but I just want to thank all three of you for the work that you put into this. Very much appreciated, and good job. So the report is attached, and on it there is a recommendation.
I can read that out for you if you like, Mayor
Sure,
McEwen.
sure.
So the recommendation is that council approve the proposed funding model as outlined in the report dated June 12, 2020 from the Chief Administrative Officer titled SVFD Funding Model Working Group Conclusion to the SVFD Board of Trustees for discussion at their next meeting, and that council refer the report and associated resolutions from the June 16, 2020 regular council meeting to the SVFD Board of Trustees for discussion at their next scheduled meeting.
Before we move that, I just wanted to add, I think it's appropriate that we add that it to the Board of Trustees and then / as well as Metro Vancouver, because again, the Saskatchewan Volunteer Fire Department is an entity of Metro Vancouver, and it should be, because they should be well aware of this as well, to make sure there's nothing that contradicts or is accepted in the letters patent. So I would just add in that on the first paragraph and the second paragraph as well, that to the Board of Trustees for discussion and Board of Trustees / Metro Vancouver for discussion at their next scheduled meeting. So with that, just adjustment, could I get someone to move that? Moved, seconded, open up for discussion. Seeing none? Oh, sorry,
Well,
Councilor.
no, I think we started off really good on those meetings. We've had 2 meetings, and then there was a dispute about the minutes, which I'm not sure where this is going. But I understand, I should have my mic on. It was a really good process, very collaborative process. The second meeting went a little sideways after the meeting when Belcarra didn't agree to what we discussed at the meeting or what we thought we discussed at the meeting. So not sure where they're going with that, but I'm looking forward to bringing this up with the trustees, because this is an important thing. We're going to be rejigging the fire halls, hopefully, to make them safer for our firefighters, and we all need to be on the same page. So
Yeah,
I have some concerns.
And I think good points, Councilor Irving. I think the key thing is that we can only control what we can control, and and this was some work. I think a great report done by Ms. Halliwell, who sat into both the meetings. So we're just moving forward as we would normally. So with nothing more being said, I'll call the question. All those in favor? It's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you, and thank you again for all your work. We have some items from Committee of the Whole, committees and commissions. At the May 21st, 2020 Community Engagement, Culture and Inclusion Committee meeting, the following request is brought forward for Council's consideration in response to special events survey results. Ms. Helrick.
Thank you. So through the mayor, as indicated, these special event survey results were brought forward to the May 21st Community Engagement, Culture and Inclusion Committee meeting. There were some feedback points that the committee would wish to bring forward to council at this time, and those are items 1 through 3. The first one is to potentially move the Light Up Spirit Park to the last Sunday in November in hopes of getting a better turnout. The second item would be to add an additional fire pit or 2 to the 2020 event, should that take place, with further discussion on how to incorporate more fire pits into the new village design. And thirdly, to add the tagline celebrating our founding families to the Ma Murray Day celebration. Additionally, the committee discussed some options for events that could potentially accommodate physical distancing requirements. And those options that were discussed were potentially a yoga in the park activity or music in the park. So those items are just brought forward for council's consideration. Should council wish to make a recommendation on any of these items, to provide staff with direction or get clarification on the discussion, Councillor Creer is also available to chime in on that. Thank you.
Good. So there's no recommendation. It's just some consideration. So I'm going to turn it over to Councillor Creer to give us your thoughts, please.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mayor McEwen. These came out of the questionnaire, the survey that we had sent out to villagers. We received, I believe, 80 or so responses, and we wanted to do something to respond to what was said and also bring more attendance to our events. So as point number one, there seemed to be a lot of conflict doing Light Up Spirit Park in December. So we're hopeful if we moved it to a Sunday in November, there would be less going on. Our only concern would be that village staff would have time to get the lights up in time. So that would be something to consider. The fire pit, I think all of us that have been at the event see that that's the big congregating place. So if there's a way that we could put in at least one more, it would be nice to be able to utilize that right away and then incorporate more into the village hall design when we do that. The other reason people were not attending Mom Murray Day, they didn't know who Mom Murray was. So we thought by adding a tagline, that would be a good way for people to realize that we are celebrating our heritage. And the other two, pretty self-explanatory, just a little way for us to do something to keep the community engaged without having to worry about COVID-19 restrictions.
A couple of questions I had is,
Sure.
so have we officially, Mom Murray Day is officially canceled for this year? Oh, sorry. Mom Murray Day is officially canceled for this year?
We have not made that decision as of yet. However,
Okay.
I expect we will need to, before we break for the summer, at
Yeah.
either the next meeting or the July 21st meeting of council.
Second thing is that, normally we got away many, many years ago from doing any sort of Canada Day celebrations because Port Moody did such a great job with their Golden Spike Days. That's all been put on hold this year. So I'm wondering, do we want to do something in regards to a social distancing Canada? I don't know what we could do. It is very short notice anyway, but I'm just sort of throwing it out there because there's going to be a big void in regards to what's happening down in Port Moody and that. So, maybe we do a picnic in the park and we put circles like they did in some of the other, I don't know. I'm just sort of throwing it out there. So anyway, I think some really great aspects of this, the bonfire has always been very, very popular. I wonder if rather making it bigger to be able to facilitate more people around rather than having two separate ones. So would be an option, but I know there's some challenges with Public Works as well in setting it up and stuff and that, but some really great observations. Anybody, Councillor Trowbridge?
Yeah, I like all the suggestions, but I think we need to make sure we're referring to the village hub. Because the hall makes me think of this building that we're actually in versus what we're trying to accomplish. But more than that, I love the concept of gathering places on the property centered around a fire. And I think, I know where you're going, Mr. Mayor, but I think multiple with spark arresters that can be controlled and we can safely burn might be something we can use at different times of the year, not just in the fall when it's wet and cold and relatively safe. If we construct something so that it's permanent and there are multiples and they're spark arrested, we may be able to expand our usage into the shoulders of the year. So I think these are great ideas.
What is spark arrested?
Fine screens that don't allow anything to...
Councillor Weber.
Yeah, I like all these ideas too. Yeah, you talk about the founding families. Really, Mom Murray didn't spend a whole lot of time up here. I've talked to lots of people that don't know who she is, and we mowed her house down. So I think it's probably a good time to maybe expand that to be a little bit more respectful of the true founders of the community. And I like everything else. Yoga in the park, I think, that big grassy area, that could just be amazing. And music in the park is something I've wanted for a long time.
Further to what you just mentioned about celebrating our founding families, we did acknowledge that there is exactly what you referred to, that we have many founding families. So it is a way for us for future growth, transition, But immediately, it's going to give people more of an understanding about why we're getting together, and then we can tweak it from there, just starting the process instead of just switching it to something else. It's kind of our thought process there. So
Good.
Thank you.
Good. Well, thank you for bringing those to our attention. I'll now move on to the,
Sorry, Mayor McEwen.
Yeah.
Can I just ask, so if there seems to be some general support from council on these activities and these changes to our like adding the new activities for this year and also for maybe making some improvements to our existing activities. So I just wanted to confirm then that you wanted to highlight November 29th for Light Up Spirit Park, which is the last Sunday in November.
Yep.
is that American Thanksgiving or no?
It's the
Week
end of the
after.
U.S. Thanksgiving. The U.S. Thanksgiving would be the 4th, 5th, whatever that Thursday prior.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then in terms of yoga in the park and music in the park and any events that you're wanting to put on this year, due to COVID and sort of the cancellation of our Easter egg hunt and potentially of Mom Murray Day as well, we don't currently have our events coordinator employed right now. So if council did want to move forward with these events, I would suggest that there might be a need to bring her back on in terms of providing the part-time events coordination that she did previously. And so I would just be looking for confirmation that that was council's intent.
Yeah, I think that we're kind of jumping the gun a little bit at this point. You know, we've canceled some pretty significant, and other communities are canceling events as well. And I think that we should be cautious of the precarious position that we are right now with the COVID curve, and maybe wait until a possible stage 3 gets brought forth and to see what we can do at that. I think we're a little premature to be bringing any of these events at this point in time. I like I said, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if we were able to do the Christmas, you know, the Light Up Spirit Park, but again, we're gonna have to wait and see how if there is going to be a second wave that hits us and how severe that's going to be at this point in time. So I would be reluctant to do anything at this point. And I know I just commented about, you know, Canada Day, but I think if people were to come up on their own, I don't think it'd be something that would really be led by the village, so to speak. So, any other comments?
Yeah, just further to
Yeah.
your statement about bringing the event coordinator in. I think yoga in the park is something that we could, like the CC committee could easily facilitate. You know, we may need a little can of spray paint to spray on the grass, but we could, it would be an easy thing if, make sure the lawn is mowed and just do a shout out on social media, a few posters, something like that. So something that we could put together very quickly and with little or no financial implication. I don't know, what's a can of spray paint, $5? Just to see how it takes off, and then we would have control over where people are with their mats. Just show up with your mat and water, and we'll bring in an instructor. It's thought.
Yeah. Good. So we'll just kind of let these things sort of just evolve and kind of through the committee and that at this point in time. So, good. Okay, I'm going to move on then to the mayor's report. Just got a couple things. I, as well as the rest of the council, attended the community hub meeting on June 11th. It was a good turnout. It was a beautiful night. It was really great being able to, you know, I think each one of us on council was able to engage with residents as they came through, answering their questions. I think a lot of clarity was offered, and a lot of people left there going much more encouraging than some of the comments that I've received in regards to on social media. The other thing is Bunsen Lake is back open again in a partial. We are getting some challenging times with the parking. That also applies to SASMAT as well. I know that, and I just want to direct this to Ms. Halliwell, you know, some residents have contacted me from Crystal Creek regarding making sure that we have adequate no parking signs up there and it's being adequately monitored. And then I'm really looking forward to tomorrow night's community hub open house. It's going to be starting at 6:30 and going till 9-ish.
Yeah, right now it was booked from 7 till 9. We had
Yeah.
a couple of residents who wanted to join us, so
Okay.
we're going to start a little bit earlier depending on how much more uptake we get, but
Good.
approximately 6:30 till 9. But you
Good.
do need to register to
Yeah,
attend.
you do need to register. There were some people that showed up at the first one that hadn't registered, and it actually we were able to fit them in because some people didn't show up. So I will be most likely standing outside, and I certainly look forward to answering any questions or listening to people if they wanted to have any discussion regarding it. I think most of council will be here. So please come out and get informed. And that's it. I'll move it on to the councillors' reports. Councillor Weberink.
Yeah, just to echo your comments there, I really enjoyed engaging with everybody. There was a lot of good questions. I noticed there was a little bit of trepidation coming in, and by the time people walked out, I think most of them felt a lot better about it. They liked the fact that they could talk to us and ask questions. I'm starting to feel some excitement coming from the village, and I met some people I'd never met before and heard some things I didn't even think about. A lot of good comments, a lot of good suggestions, so we'll have to figure out a way to kind of correlate all that at the end of this and present it and make some decisions. And I'd also be in favor, I know we would probably have to pay the architects to come out for a third or a fourth one, but I'm certainly willing to put in whatever time it takes. Maybe we don't need the architects for if people start to show more interest in this sort of thing and want to do more, we've got to be accommodating during this COVID thing, so I will certainly make the time available.
Thank you. So
Okay, I'm back on.
just following up on Mayor McEwen and Councillor Everink's comments about the open house. So we will accommodate, a few more people certainly tomorrow. We will book another night if we do get further interest than that. But just a reminder too that we are looking to book a virtual open house for people who may not be able to attend in person. We've tentatively set that for next Wednesday, June the 24th. And again, that would be hosted by the architects. They would run through the presentation boards that are currently being shown at the open house, and there would be an opportunity for sort of a live Q&A from residents as well. So information will be coming out for that in the next couple of days, so watch out for that. There have been a couple of additional no parking signs installed in the Crystal Creek area, and we certainly will continue to monitor as the weather gets nicer to the areas. The one announcement as well in terms of Bunsen Lake is that they now have lifeguards on duty, which is a great improvement for all of the visitors to that area. So that they've implemented for the first time this summer. I wanted to mention that our Capital Works tender has now been posted. It's going to close on July the 7th, and it'll come forward for Council's award consideration on the July 21st meeting. And then hopefully we'll get rolling pretty quickly after that with the actual construction of the work once Council decides what they'd like to undertake this year. And finally, just a reminder from the RCMP to lock your vehicles. There's been a few thefts, but mostly from vehicles that have been left unlocked on people's properties. So just a reminder from them to please make sure that you secure your vehicles and don't leave any valuables inside. And also, there have been a couple of reports of people's driving and it being very inappropriate. I would encourage residents to call the non-emergency line if they do witness anybody who's maybe driving dangerously, but there isn't an imminent threat to somebody's life or property. Because anytime that there's suspicious activity in the village or somebody notices that someone might be doing something wrong, if you call the non-emergency line, then it's a record for the RCMP. They know that there's this activity happening and they're able to sort of spend a little bit more time up here patrolling for those types of things. So I would just encourage that as well. And that is it for me. Oh, other than to mention, that this is our first week back open to the public after we shut down mid-March. For COVID. So we have staff in the office at about 50% capacity, and we're only open to the public on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. So for anybody who wants to come and pay their property taxes, they're welcome to between our regular operating hours, which are 8:30 until 4. But we do close for half an hour between 12 and 12:30 to sanitize everything and for shifts to change over for staff coming in who are only working part days. So far, so good.
Good, thank you, Ms. Halliwell. we have a few information items. We have the minutes from the Environment Committee held on January 16th, minutes of the Community Engagement, Culture, and Inclusion Committee meeting held on March 12th. The general correspondence, the Metro Vancouver Board and Brief for meetings held on April 24th is also included in our agenda. I'll now open up to the public question period. And we have Alex here. Any questions, Alex? Nothing? Well, thank you for being here. And I just wanted to, before we adjourn, I just want to thank everybody for watching, who's watching us at home. This is our first inaugural online meeting, and please don't be shy about providing comments. Hopefully you were able to hear everything clearly, and it came through very well at home. So with that being said, I'll move to adjourn. Moved, seconded. Any discussion? See none. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you, everyone. And a big thank you to staff for putting this all together.